going well for them this year, especially Meghan. And so she's sort of desperate to try to, but when it comes to Barack Obama, especially, he was the former president of the United States. In some ways, there's no real greater accomplishment than becoming president of the United States. She's going back to what she knows, which is calling her PR company and going, hey, can you get me front row somewhere?
The image was meant to look effortless. A smiling couple, front row seats, global cameras locked in. But the moment the footage began circulating from the NBA All-Star Game, the contrast between the polished photograph and the unguarded reality became impossible to ignore. While the officials still showed composure, the moving images told a very different story, one that many viewers interpreted as discomfort bordering on visible misery from Prince Harry. Social media reaction was swift and brutal. Commentators dissected body language frame by frame, pointing to Harry's stiff posture, forced expressions, and the repeated nudges that appeared to cue him when cameras were nearby. One viral remark likened the scene to a hostage situation, an exaggeration perhaps, but one that captured the unease many felt watching the clip unfold. The central criticism was not about attendance at a sporting event, but about authenticity or the perceived lack of it. Throughout the night, Meghan Markle appeared animated, scanning the arena, acknowledging lenses, and engaging selectively. Harry, by contrast, seemed disengaged, only briefly lighting up during a short exchange with Chris Tucker. Observers noted the shift immediately: relaxed shoulders, genuine laughter, eye contact. Yet the moment he returned to his seat, the energy drained away. Cameras rolled, Meghan leaned in, and the performance resumed. That word performance dominated online commentary. Critics argued the evening felt less like a shared experience and more like a carefully managed PR appearance. The timing only fueled suspicion. The couple had been photographed the night before on what was framed as a Valentine's outing, leading many to question whether paparazzi had been alerted in advance. In an era where spontaneous celebrity sightings are rare, skepticism comes naturally. The comparison that hurt most, however, was unintentional. In the same arena sat Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. Their presence electrified the crowd. Players crossed the court to greet them. The audience rose. The contrast was stark. While the former president and first lady were treated as undisputed VIPs, Harry and Meghan were largely bypassed, greeted politely, but without enthusiasm. To critics, the message was clear: star power cannot be staged. It accumulates through legacy, achievement, and connection. Harry's royal status, inherited rather than earned in the public imagination, no longer carries the weight it once did, especially in the United States. Meghan's Hollywood ambitions, meanwhile, appear caught between eras, relying on strategies that feel dated in a culture increasingly allergic to overt image management. The speed of their appearance only reinforced the narrative. Arrival photos, brief. Interactions, exit. Within minutes, the job was done. No lingering, no organic moments, just content captured and disseminated. For a couple who frequently criticize media intrusion, their visible comfort when cameras appear has become a recurring point of contention. Behind the criticism lies a broader question: purpose. Public figures can weather awkward appearances if there is substance behind them, a project, a cause, a clear direction. Here, many struggle to see one. No major release, no campaign launch, just visibility for its own sake. As one commentator put it bluntly, when celebrity couples feel compelled to prove happiness publicly, it often signals strain privately. Whether that interpretation is fair or not, the optics from the All-Star Game were damaging. Instead of projecting unity and ease, the footage amplified doubts about authenticity, relevance, and direction, for Harry in particular. The night underscored a recurring theme: a man out of place, searching for meaning while the cameras keep rolling. Why this appearance happened at all? In Hollywood, visibility without context is rarely accidental. Front row seats at a marquee event like the NBA All-Star Game are not casually obtained, especially when cameras seem to know exactly where to look. Too many observers, evening felt less like a night out and more like a carefully choreographed exercise in relevance. What stood out immediately was the imbalance of intent. Meghan Markle appeared hyper-aware of optics-tracking lenses, smiling on cue, leaning in at precisely the moments photographers were closest. This is not inherently unusual in celebrity culture. but it becomes conspicuous when paired with a partner who seems unable or unwilling to match the performance. Prince Harry, throughout most of the footage, looked detached. His expression suggested endurance rather than enjoyment, compliance rather than enthusiasm. Several commentators noted that Harry's brief spark of animation emerged only when speaking with Chris Tucker. The interaction felt spontaneous, two men talking without agenda. But notably, Meghan remained seated, carefully positioned outside the frame. This detail ignited speculation online, not because of the conversation itself, but because of the broader context surrounding Hollywood networking and risk management. In today's media environment, associations are scrutinized relentlessly, and publicists are acutely aware of which images they do and do not want circulating. This leads to the central critique. The event appeared optimized for images, not experience. Once the cameras had captured the necessary shots arrival photos, a few reaction clips, brief celebrity interactions, the couple exited quickly. The abrupt departure reinforced the idea that their presence served a singular function: content acquisition. In contrast, genuinely invested attendees linger, interact, and fade naturally into the crowd. Here, the exit was as deliberate as the entrance. The reaction from the crowd and players further complicated the narrative. While not hostile, the indifference was palpable. Athletes passed by without stopping. No greetings, no acknowledgement. This neutrality spoke volumes. In celebrity ecosystems, attention is currency and indifference is its absence. The juxtaposition with figures like Barack Obama, who command organic respect, regardless of political opinion, only sharpened the contrast. Legacy, it seems, still matters. Critics argue that this is the consequence of a branding problem. Since stepping away from royal duties, Harry and Meghan have struggled to define a clear lane. Advocacy, entertainment, philanthropy, commerce, each has been attempted, none fully consolidated. Without a unifying narrative, public appearances risk feeling hollow. Visibility becomes noise rather than signal. There is also a growing perception that the strategies being deployed are outdated. Paparazzi-style date-night photos, front-row placements, and staged candid moments were effective tools in the 2000s. Today, audiences are savvier. They expect transparency or, at the very least, coherence. When neither is present, skepticism fills the gap. For Harry, the optics are particularly unforgiving. His public identity has long been tied to duty, service, and a sense of mission. In Los Angeles, amid celebrity spectacle, that identity appears unmoored. The discomfort seen courtside is read not just as personal unease, but as symbolic dislocation of prince without a kingdom, navigating a culture that values accomplishment over title. Ultimately, the all-star appearance did more than spark memes. It intensified an existing narrative, a couple trying to project unity and success, while the cracks show through the performance. In Hollywood, perception is everything. And on this night, perception did them no favors. What followed in the days after that courtside appearance was not relief or positive buzz, but a widening sense that something deeper is off. Public reaction hardened quickly, especially online, where clips slowed down frame by frame told a story very different from the polished still photographs. The dominant takeaway was not glamour or relevance, but strain. The body language appeared mismatched, the energy uneven, and the dynamic uncomfortable to watch for many viewers. This moment crystallized an argument that has been circulating for some time. Prince Harry looks increasingly disconnected from the life he is now living. His expressions courtside were compared to previous public appearances, royal tours, military events, even earlier charity engagements in the United States. The contrast was stark. Where there was once confidence and ease, there now appeared hesitation and withdrawal. Whether fair or not, perception matters. And the perception forming is that Harry is no longer steering the ship. Meanwhile, Meghan Markle appeared firmly in performance mode. That, too, fed criticism. Commentators pointed out that she seemed fully aware of every camera angle, every cue, every moment of visibility. Smiles appeared instantly when lenses turned their way and faded just as quickly when attention moved elsewhere. To supporters, this is media literacy, understanding how public life works. To critics, it looks transactional, even calculated, especially when paired with Harry's visible discomfort. This tension is not new, but it is becoming harder to ignore. In Hollywood, couples are often treated as brands, and harmony is expected to be part of the product. When one half appears disengaged, it disrupts the narrative. Audiences may forgive ambition, but they are less forgiving of what feels like emotional imbalance being repackaged as romance. Adding fuel to the fire is the ongoing role of media allies and surrogates. Figures like Omid Scobie continue to hover at the edges of these moments, attempting to shape interpretation. Statements denying closeness to the Sussexes are routinely undermined by past evidence, including on-air revelations by Vanessa Feltz, who publicly described receiving notes that explicitly referenced Meghan's reactions to coverage. These contradictions have damaged credibility not just for Scobie, but for the broader media ecosystem that still platforms him. The result is fatigue. Even neutral observers are growing tired of narratives that feel recycled. Persecution, misunderstanding, media obsession followed by carefully staged appearances that contradict those very complaints. When a couple repeatedly denounces intrusive attention while simultaneously appearing to orchestrate it, audiences notice the inconsistency. There is also a strategic problem at play. High-visibility appearances typically serve a purpose, promoting a project, advancing a cause, or reinforcing a clear identity. Here, none of those boxes were convincingly ticked. No initiative was highlighted. No upcoming work was teased. The appearance existed in a vacuum, making it feel less like engagement and more like assertion we're still here. Please look at us. For Harry in particular, this creates a troubling arc. His stated priorities: mental health, online safety, compassion for victims are serious issues that demand sincerity and gravity. When he is seen grimacing through celebrity outings, the disconnect between message and setting becomes jarring. Critics argue that it undermines his advocacy, making it appear secondary to lifestyle branding. What makes this moment resonate is not just the awkwardness itself, but what it symbolizes. A prince once defined by service now seems trapped in a cycle of visibility without direction. A duchess determined to control narrative now faces growing skepticism about authenticity. Together, they project not unity, but friction. And perhaps that is why the reaction was so sharp. Audiences are not just reacting to one basketball game or one set of photographs. They are responding to a pattern, one that suggests a couple struggling to reconcile ambition with credibility, attention with purpose, and performance with reality. As the dust settled, what remained was not outrage, but a quieter, more damaging response, indifference edging toward disbelief. In today's attention economy, backlash can still be useful. Keeps a name circulating. Indifference, however, signals erosion. And that is the territory this moment pushed the Sussex narrative into. People did not rush to defend or attack with the same intensity. Many simply shrugged, scrolling past with the sense that they had seen this story before, just dressed differently. What makes this especially striking is how far the arc has traveled. Prince Harry once embodied rebellion with a cause. His departure from royal life was framed as a principled stand against rigid tradition, against intrusive media, against emotional suffocation. That framing carried power. It invited empathy, even from those who did not fully agree. But principled exits require principled destinations. Over time, the absence of a clearly defined why has weakened the original argument. The public senses this drift instinctively. When Harry speaks now, listeners search for grounding, something that feels earned rather than inherited, rooted rather than reactive. Yet too often, his appearances are overshadowed by optics that suggest confusion rather than clarity. Advocacy loses its weight when it appears untethered from a consistent personal direction. The courtside images did not create this perception. They merely confirmed it. For Meghan Markle, the challenge is different but equally complex. She has always been more comfortable with visibility, more fluent in the language of modern celebrity. That skill initially worked in her favor. It allowed her to dominate conversations, redirect narratives, and command attention in spaces where others hesitate. But mastery of attention comes with a cost. Audiences eventually demand substance equal to the spotlight. The criticism forming around Meghan is not simply that she enjoys attention. Many public figures do. It is that the attention often feels like the destination, not the byproduct. When appearances seem disconnected from tangible outcomes, projects launched, causes advanced, communities served, skepticism grows. The question quietly forming is no longer why are they being treated unfairly, but what exactly is being built here? This is where comparison becomes unavoidable. Across the Atlantic, the monarchy Harry left behind continues, imperfect and often criticized, but structurally coherent. Engagements follow a rhythm. Causes are tied to institutions. Visibility serves function. Against that backdrop, the Sussex approach feels episodic bursts of attention without a sustaining framework. The contrast is not flattering. Equally damaging is the sense of emotional imbalance between the two. Public couples, especially high-profile ones, are scrutinized for harmony, whether that is fair or not. In this case, repeated moments have fed a narrative that one partner is driving forward while the other is being pulled along. Over time, that perception morphs from gossip into assumed truth. Once that happens, every interaction is interpreted through that lens. Reinforcing it further, the media ecosystem surrounding them has not helped. Friendly commentators and informal spokespeople often appear eager to explain away awkward moments or redirect criticism toward familiar villains. But repetition dulls impact. When every negative reaction is attributed to bad faith, audiences stop listening. Accountability, even partial, reads as more authentic than perpetual deflection. What is most striking is that none of this was inevitable. The resources at their disposal, financial, social, cultural, remain extraordinary. They have access to platforms most advocates can only dream of. The problem is not lack of opportunity. It is lack of focus. Purpose, when clear, has a gravitational pull. It aligns messaging, guides appearances, and filters out distractions. Without it, everything becomes noise. There is still time to recalibrate. Public perception is not fixed. It evolves. But evolution requires visible change, not just revised talking points. It would mean fewer appearances designed for buzz and more work that speaks quietly but decisively. It would mean letting outcomes, not optics, do the talking. Most importantly, it would require an honest reckoning with the gap between how they see themselves and how they are currently seen. The courtside moment will not be remembered for what happened on the court. It will be remembered as a snapshot of a larger uncertainty, two figures caught between identities. Neither fully private citizens nor fully convincing public servants. In that in-between space, charisma fades quickly. What replaces it must be something sturdier. Ultimately, audiences are not cruel. They are pragmatic. They invest attention where they sense direction and withdraw it where they sense drift. The silence that followed this appearance was not accidental. It was a message. And whether that message is heard may determine the next chapter of a story that once promised transformation, but now risks becoming repetition.